All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. We're here for what's becoming a very normal occurrence, our training session. This morning we asked a stranger to come visit with us to cover a topic of cybersecurity, very important topic. And the reason we brought him in is he's our professional. This is Nathan Handley. He's been in IT industry for over 27 years. He's worked with PTG here in local for about 6 years. And he's going to give us some knowledge, I hope. Because we all have a little heartburn when it comes to cybersecurity, correct? So,
David, I need you to do something for me.
what's that?
Nothing.
Oh, and I asked him what his hobbies were, and he likes to play soccer and pool. So if anybody wants to challenge him to a pool, step forward.
You know most of the guys that work for me, David, Jonathan. Again, we've taken care of your network and your computers for about 1.5 years or so now. So we're familiar with your environment and the problems that you face and what you deal with. For it, if you ever care, this is part of my background and information, so I have some experience doing certain things. One is, it's a great topic, and it's pretty heartfelt, especially right now. I hate to say it. How many people in here have a Capital One credit card? Hopefully you saw the news. Okay. And it was, they caught the individual within 24 hours, and it was an inside job. But believe it or not, 100 million credit cards and information were lost, were exfiltrated out of the building last week. So it happens every day, and it continues to go on. What I'm going to go through is what is cybercrime, what actually constitutes a criminal act on it, viruses versus what is malware versus what is ransomware, and then the differences between phishing, spear phishing, and whaling, and then what you can do as far as protection and knowledge about it. All kinds of interesting things on this. From common frauds, just telemarketing, the Nigerian letters. We've all got a prince that apparently knows us somewhere in Africa. I mean, we've all heard of it. Identity theft, advanced fee schemes, all the nice things that have been around for years and years. And believe it or not, the very first telemarketing and Nigerian letter fraud happened in the Dark Ages. During the Crusades, people were kidnapped, or they sent letters back to the families after somebody was killed and said they'd been kidnapped. Send £1 and they'll be released from captivity. And they sent it off. Oh, well, now they need £2. And so this scheme has been around since the early years. Then there's all kinds of investment. There's everything from the Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, letters of credit fraud. All of these things shouldn't be anything new to any of you. Just be aware that there's that much out there. And then once the internet came around, information flows a little much faster and easier. You've got still credit card, investments, business, still the Nigerian letters. Internet auctions, people selling you things, you pay for it, nothing ever shows up. You never get the product that you supposedly bought, or you get something else and you get a bait and switch type of thing. So it covers personally and business. And then one of the bigger ones, unfortunately, is they're targeting, and I started as the senior citizen group, but they're targeting the people that are less knowledgeable. And that really can be anybody, not just the elderly. But it really is the same type of thing as it goes down. And it's actually happened, it's happened to a lot of people. I got a phone call probably 10 years ago from my aunt saying, "Where are you at?" "I'm at work." "No, really, where are you?" "I'm at work." Well, you can just say yes if you're somewhere else. I'm like, "No, I'm at work." "Well, my grandfather just got a phone call that says I was in jail in Canada. He needed to send a $3,000 wire transfer to get me out of jail somewhere in Canada." And he did it. I appreciate it, but they were able to stop the wire transfer and so forth. But so it happens around there. Going into viruses versus malware versus ransomware. Viruses, think about them exactly the same way as human viruses. cold, flu, you catch it, you pass it on, it just spreads on its own. You can take your vitamins and eat well and exercise, but you can still get sick. Viruses on computers are exactly the same way. They spread on their own, they move around on their own, they've got that mechanism, and it just happens. Now we have antivirus, which much like your old viruses, and that is, you know, things of polio, smallpox, which supposedly were eradicated and then coming back. But viruses have worked the same way. Viruses in the early 2000s were incredible. There were two that almost shut down the entire country. The NIMDA virus, which is admin spelled backwards, and the anacornacova virus. Those two were massive viruses. You had to stay up to date on viruses, and they were almost plagues. At this point, there are very, very few viruses. We don't see them hardly at all, mainly because the antivirus is doing its job. We still see them catch it. It says, oh, you caught this virus. It cleans it within a couple of seconds, and you're back in your gut. You still need antivirus, but it's not as big of an issue any longer. So I'm not saying it's not important, but we've pretty much got it under control across the board. Malware, unfortunately, is when you, as the individuals, click on something. You open a website, you click on an ad. When you do a Google search, you do realize that the top 4 to 5 items are advertisements. They are not your actual results. They actually have to say ad on them, so look closely, it says ad under them, but those are not your legitimate responses. You click on something, you open an email, you open an attachment, you have just said malware can come in. We can't stop it. We can clean it up, but we can't stop it because you click on it and say yes, please come in. The way I look at it is the same way as you catch a cold because somebody sneezes on you, not really your fault. Malware is sort of you picked up the needle and injected yourself with it. You've actually done it. And so that's why it's such a big issue, is because you selected it, you've done it. Whether you meant to or not is the issue. And so that's where it gets. It's got the permission to run. You told it, yes, please run. It's installed by you and it moves around. It can move now from your computer to any computer you have rights on. So it installs on your computer. You all have access to all the data shares that you have permissions to on the servers. It immediately moves to the servers because you have permission to let it down. So you've allowed it to enter and move around the company. And they primarily are designed for financial gain, which leads into the ransomware piece. Ransomware is actually a malware component, and what it does is it locks all of your files and encrypts them, and when you encrypt it, you've got to put a password in. Well, they put a password in, they just don't tell you what it is. They want you to pay them, and hopefully they give you the password. And that has become extremely popular and rampant throughout the world right now. And what's amazing is, sort of put them in a different wrong order there, is the time sharing. Originally, time sharing started with, everybody's heard of cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin, people buying computers and mining for Bitcoins. What some of the malware did is it went out to all of your computers and took up a little piece of your processor. And it's mining for Bitcoins on the back end. It's using your company's power and your processing power and RAM on your computers to mine money for somebody else. And you don't even know it's there. They just left it quiet and it ran in the background. Those were very profitable for them in the beginning because there was lots of money to be had with Bitcoin. It's kind of like the gold in the river, everybody picked it up. Now when you got to dig through the ground, it's not as profitable and it's harder. So Bitcoin is on decline because it's not as easy to mine. So they turned to ransomware. What they're now doing, believe it or not, with ransomware is just what your business is you do a product for a service. People outsource their accounting and HR to you, and you provide that service to them. Companies are outsourcing their malware to the ransomware people. They've already got a foothold in 300 million computers. They're now selling off that space that they have access to ransomware. So the ransomware is now coming in through malware components. And so it's amazing. I mean, you have to sort of appreciate the way they're going about it. It's a bad product, but they're using some great methods to be able to infiltrate into the organizations and then take over for it. Those are the three main differences between viruses, malware, and ransomware. And yes, there have been some that have been hit. You can pay the ransomware. You can talk about paying the ransomware. It's just like we said earlier about the buying something on an auction site. You may or may not get it. You can pay the ransomware, and they may give you the key. It is in their best interest to give you the key because that makes them a little more reputable, and they can continue to do it. But unfortunately, the FBI is shutting down the servers as fast as they're popping up. So if you go to pay for it, the server you have to pay may not be in existence anymore. So again, with all of this, there are just means of protection which we'll get into, which are best for you to go about. And through all this, please, I'm not going to save the questions to the end. If you like, if you have questions as the slides go, please feel free. And this is basically just how it works. It comes in one place and spreads throughout the computer system and goes to all the computers. So you can be diligent, but if anybody else in the organization isn't, you can still become infected. So it is a group effort and it's a business process effort. You'll get pop-ups like this on your screen. As soon as you've been hit or encrypted, you can go to open a file and it says you need a password to open it. You didn't encrypt it, but now you need a password to open it. You'll get a pop-up on your screen saying everything's been encrypted. Please pay us money and we'll give it back to you. We had a customer, which I can't get into who, the beginning of this month got hit very badly with the ransomware. And there's a new strain to where every folder is encrypted differently. So you have to pay to get every folder unencrypted, not just one. It was really
On the back end, can y'all uncrypt those or fix them or?
There are some, as things have evolved, there are a number of the older ones that are a couple years old that they've now cracked the code for, so to speak, and you can unencrypt a number of them. It really depends on if somebody's already done that or not. We cannot. There are cyber crime and cybersecurity firms out there that's what they do. And for this customer, we actually engage. We have partnerships with them already, because that, again, we can't be the jack of all trades. You don't want to be. Let them focus on what they do. And so we've got partnerships. We brought them in, and they did the investigations. They could not crack it. They were able to make sure that no data left the building. And that's where it becomes important, especially for a group like you. You can get hit. We've got you backed up. We restore your data. You're back up and operational. But because of the information that you hold, you have to have proof that none of your customer data left the building. Encrypting is one thing, but did they take it and drag it out of the building? And so we brought in this firm, and they did the investigations and the forensic discussions to make sure that none of the data was exfiltrated. And that's the important piece. At that point, we restore you, you're back operational, and you don't have to do anything about it. You do not have to go public. You do not have to tell your customers because none of their data was lost or was compromised. If the discovery goes the other direction, then you've got an entire process that you have to go through to make sure that the public knows and your announcements and so forth along with it. Fishing, spearfishing, and whaling. Fishing is exactly that. You throw your cast out there and you hope you get something. Not targeting anything, you're just putting it out there and seeing what bites. You're going to get emails like this. And the thing is to look at the emails. Most people have a PayPal account. There's nothing wrong with that. But the sender address, why would you be getting something from Australia? That doesn't make any sense. You know, it's asking for just, dear member, doesn't say who you are. The biggest one I have found is read the sentences. Most of the time their English is pretty poor. And it's little things like log in your account versus log into your account. Look for the language components to it. Unfortunately, they're also getting smarter and they're hiring translators. And they've got people on staff. And believe me, these are not people sitting in a basement with their hoodie on, banging out code, drinking, Red Bull. These are organizations that are huge, sitting in cubicle farms, and they're doing this as a business. They've got a whole hierarchy group, they've got legal aspects, they've got whole translators and people that are doing the writing. It is big business. Primarily the biggest business in it is generally the Russian mafia. that is doing most of it, and they're turning to this is just another form of organized crime. And it is organized. It is not somebody just out there. The biggest thing that you can do is if you just hover over the link, do not click, and you'll see that the address here doesn't even come close to equaling anything that resembles PayPal. The best way around any of this, well, maybe my it looks legit. Maybe I should talk to PayPal. Just close the email. Close it. You can even delete it, but just close the email. Then go to a web browser, open up and go to your PayPal account the same way you would any other time. Trust me, PayPal doesn't need your password. They've already got it. They're never going to ask you for it. They don't need it. And when you log into, anybody's logged into your bank or anything else and your password has expired, what's the first thing that's going to pop up? You need to change your password. So stop, go to your bank, go to your financial, whatever you're doing, and do it the normal way that you do it. They're going to make the changes for you. We never need your passwords. We have our own way into your system. I don't need your password to get into your data. So we're never going to ask for it. No one should ever ask for your password or your username. The people that run the systems already have the access that they need. Other ones, you get these IRS. I need to pay attention to it. This is a big one. But they're getting much better at what things look like and how they go. And it's the same thing. Just hover over the links and you'll see down here it's from the UK. What's our IRS sending anything from the UK for? They're not going to. So immediately you know that it's incorrect. I work with the FBI Cyber Crime Division in Bentonville. We've done a lot of these talks together. The FBI says they get people with the FBI warning, they get emails all the time saying, you know, you sent me this thing, I need to pay $1,000 to get the warrant off my back because the FBI is after me. As he tells everybody, the FBI does not send you letters or email. We simply show up at your door. So think about it. The FBI is not going to send you an email asking you for money. They work with the U.S. Treasury. You can't send the FBI money even if you wanted to. Just think through the items. Unfortunately, the biggest component that you'll have to deal with is here's an invoice I need you to pay. Here's a resume for somebody looking for a job. Things that you would normally see. You're going to see invoices all day long in your course of business. Know who the invoices are coming from. Know what the invoices normally look like. And no, we don't normally do ACH payments with you. Why would I get an email asking for this? Always call the person. Nobody's going to get mad at you for calling up and saying, did you really want me to transfer you $10,000? If they are, then they've got their own problems. So use your mind, go through those types of things, and think about it. Unfortunately, you are going to see a lot of invoices. And I hate to say it, but one of the best things to do if you're not sure if the invoice is legit or not, you get an email that you're not sure is legit. One, you can send it to us. We have sandboxes we can open these up in that they can't do any harm with. And two, if somebody really sending you an invoice, this doesn't sound legitimate, put it aside. Just like you guys, they'll send you another one. And now if you get a second one, or third one, they're exactly the same, maybe this is something you can call them up and talk to them about. I only put this one in here. This is not a very exciting one, but if you look at the date, it came in yesterday. So these things are not in past, these things are current. It's pretty ugly, Office 365, but it was sent to us. A preferred office with the help desk. And if you look at it, the two pieces, one I hover over the link and it's something worthless down here. It's not Office 365 at all, so this is not a legit email. The piece that is interesting in the whole thing is if you look at the sender, one, message center, it's got all of these little characters over it, but this is an actual company. So this is a law firm that sent this email out. They didn't actually send it, but they have been compromised. They have a computer in their environment that more than likely is compromised, that is sending these emails out to everybody. So there's no way for us to trace it, because all we're going to go back to is this law firm. And it's on a computer sitting somewhere, but sending out all these emails and hoping somebody checks on it. So there's middlemen in this as well, and so it's extremely hard to track and to trace. Then we get into the spear phishing and whaling. I highly recommend for every company not to put your executive team on the website. Do not put their names. Do not put their email addresses. No contact information. If you want emails, info at, sales at, contact us at, put generic things on there, and do not put your executive team. The way that this works, largest insurance company in the world. You go, and right here, your CFO. You get his name, real simple to find out that his email address is david.herzog@aig.com. Then they'll call and say they've got a payment issue, can they talk to the controller? They do their finagling, their sales pitch, they find out who the controller is. Don't even have to talk to the individual, but find out that it's Jill Smith. Then they send an email from David to Jill asking her to wire money. Now she sees this coming from her CFO, this is what she's supposed to do. She gets there and she wires and transfers the money. They've done their homework on it. Other things that they'll do now is they'll go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They'll find David. They'll look up his name of his dog, the birthday pictures of his family, his wife's name, their anniversary dates. And then they're going to start plugging in passwords, using information that they're able to find for everything that's available on social media. This is, doing that kind of work is spear phishing. They're actually looking and trying to pick on you. And when they're going after large organizations and the top tier, that's when they're going after the whales. They're going after whale. All taken from gambling terms, or the whales are the people sitting there with lots of money that they're going after. And so these are the reasons why it's extremely important. You want to show off your executive team, and you can do that, but don't put any links, don't put their email addresses. The best way around it too is if you truly want to put it on there, don't put, they're not reading them, they're using bots to scrape all the data off. Make this an entire picture. Not just his picture, but his name and his information as an actual image. They can't scrape the data off and export it. So what can you do to protect yourself? One, hopefully kind of going through those things, pay attention to what you're doing. Don't just click on things. Be responsible as far as things. And if you're not sure, ask somebody. I promise you, I know your executives here, and not one of them will be upset with you for asking if this is legitimate, should I actually do this, or something else. They all are very conscious about keeping the company safe, and you safe, and your customers. So with your culture that you've got, ask people, raise your hand, and there's no reason why you should be getting worried about, I'm gonna get in trouble, I should just do this in a hurry. Don't give out your information. Don't trust people. I know it sounds bad, it really does. Don't trust anything that you're opening. If you're getting the same payment from the same company every week and then all of a sudden the payment changes, why did it change? Why are they asking for something different? Just keep with what you actually know. Think about what you're using as far as prepaid, obviously, online auction sites and merchants, and then be aware of what you're doing. They're popping up all the time. Some of them are great and lots of people use them, and others just are not. If you see something brand new, give it a month before you jump on the bandwagon as far as selling or buying things online. And they make the websites look identical. It's real simple. If you don't know, you can go to a website, you can right click, and you can see the code, cut and paste, and you now have their website. It takes nothing to repost somebody's website exactly the same way it is, and change one or two links for it. And they had with 365, you log into that all the time. You can even go to where you log in, put in your username and password, it looks exactly the same. The only reason we found one the other day is because they were using the background that 365 used about 2 months ago. And they try to keep that changing for that reason. And so it's just a matter of the little things, but they make it look really good. Unfortunately, it makes it much harder for you. And then the simple things. I mean, unless you have a Nigerian uncle that's a prince, be aware of what's going on. And again, generally pick up the phone and talk to people. If it's too good to be true, it is. I've never received free money out there from anybody, so I don't know if, maybe you're a lot luckier than I am. And they're not going to, people aren't going to give you large sums of money just for letting you use their bank account. And then from the business side of things, primarily catered for you. be aware of your merchants that you're using. Know those that you're doing money transfers, ACH payments to. Look for the changes as those things happen. Put in processes and policies to discuss any of those that change. What are we doing anytime a customer requests a change? Is it just a phone call? Do they need to send a written letter in the mail? You need to come up with some things. You just don't want a single phone call. Please, we just got a new bank account. This just actually happened. We got a new bank account, same bank, so the routing number really doesn't change. Change this one number on the bank account. Sounds all good, same bank, you're in Van Buren, no problem. Ends up being that they went and set up a bank account in the same bank, and then they want you, and all of a sudden now the money's going into a different account. So come up with whatever the policies are. I can't tell you how to do your business, but come up with policies that look for changes, look for alterations, and put those. There are advanced workstation protections. We talked about the resume and invoice emails. Again, no one needs your personal information. No one needs your account information. No customer is going to call you up and say, can you tell me what my bank account number is? They've already got it, or they need to go to their bank and get it. You don't need to give out any information to anyone. And anytime something comes up, you're going to get, there are tricks. They're getting very good at it. You have questions, send it to your IT company, which happens to be us. We'll be happy to look at the email. We'll be happy to give you our response. And we'll do the best that we can with it. But generally, again, we have a sandbox that we can open your emails up in and see if they are legitimate or not. And we can look at things. And I know it's going to hit a nerve. One of the worst things you can be doing is using macros within MS Office. I know you do it across the board, but because macros are enabled already, because that's your normal business course, anytime you were to open a file that executes with macro, it's not going to ask you. It's already going to do it. So you're going to be hit and exploited, and you will not get the question yes or no because you already have macros turned on. So it is something, I know it's a very big part of your business and a big part of your Excel documents and that you use, but it is something to be very aware of. And sometimes the business decision outweighs the risk, and that's just something that you have to decide and determine to go with. One of the pieces that I was asked to bring up in that, we have discovered that many of you have never changed from your default password. So you should change your password. You should change your password on a regular basis. We do not force you to do that because, again, it's a business decision. We can put that in, implement that in place, no problem. But what we have found is we say, all right, every 30 days, every 90 days, you got to change your password. In about 6 months, we find them written under keyboards, written on the monitors, on sticky notes. That is no better off than not changing your password. So there has to be, unfortunately, with the owners and that, there has to be a business decision put in place to force password changes. And honestly, my recommendation is if you write your password down, you're fired. And that's as simple as it goes. But again, I'm not the one making those decisions, but those are my recommendations along with them. I hate to say it too, as we said, the Capital One was an inside job. This was a person that worked for the security company that took care of Capital One. You all are great. I'm sure none of you would do this, but you're fine, but you wrote your password down. They walk into your office, see your password, then they log in as you. They do whatever they want to do, and it comes back to you.
And you're starting an equitable war.
We would like to trust everyone, but as I said earlier, don't trust anyone. Do your job, you do it right, and you won't have to. So those are things to honestly keep in mind. Certainly we can discuss what policies you would like to put in place, but those are some things that need to be done. So please, anyone that hasn't changed your password, please change your password on a regular basis. Very quickly on passwords, there was a firm that wrote the book on password using uppercase, lowercase, using special characters, changing the I for an exclamation point, all these things. They just came out in the beginning of this year and said they were wrong. Not so much that they were wrong, but the world has changed. And so they have now changed their entire policy and process on password protection. The best thing you can do now is uppercase, lowercase, and special characters mean nothing. They do not make it any harder for a system because now it's a computer cracking it, not a person guessing. With the computer cracking, if your password is 7 characters long, they can crack the password in 3 minutes. If the password is 8 characters long, it will take them 3 days. The length of your password makes all the difference in the world. Now, I don't want to remember a long 9, 10 character password, so the best thing is make it a passphrase. Something extremely simple but lengthy. Instead of making your password your dog's name with some special characters in there, make it, my dog Fred is my best friend. Some long sentence that you're going to remember, one word, and it's going to be a far more secure password than using special characters. So you can keep them simple, something you're going to remember. This is my work password and I love working here. Something you like. And it's going to be great, and that's going to be a phenomenal password.
Aren't there limits on passwords, like 8
The-
characters,
the-
or so we have to have?
There is a limit, it's 255.
Oh.
Joseph is totally awesome and the best person in the entire world. Nobody stole my character.
Now you know his password.
Parentheses, LOL.
Now you can set to where there is a minimum password. You cannot be less than 8 characters. You cannot be less than 6 characters. You do have to have a capital letter. There are different things that are said in there, but truly the capitalization and the special characters, most of them still require that, but they don't really matter when they're cracking a password. And the second best thing that can happen, especially since you do some programs that are online, and I know your main one does now, is require that they have 2-factor authentication. That means that you put in your username and password, and then you get an email. We use a program called Google Authenticator. It's on your phone. Works great, and that password changes every 30 seconds. It's like the old, if you all remember, there were people ran around with these little key fobs with a number on them, and then put in that number, and it changes automatically. Same concept. You put in your username and password, and then it pops up and says, what's the code? You go to your phone, and there's this code that's changing every 30 seconds. You put that code in, and it lets you into the website. They can still send you an email as well in case you lose your phone or breaks or you don't have it. There are ways around it, but it's always requiring a second level of authentication. They can crack your username and password. Even if they have that, they don't have that key that's changing every 30 seconds. And I recommend that for anything that you do online. Almost every banking institution has that available, as well as I know some of the applications in that do as well. So I highly recommend using that across the board. Any questions?
Let there be light.
I got one.
Yes.
So what if I'm at home, I'm not working, and I'm using my home computer, and something comes up, a virus or whatever, and I clean it up on my home computer. But obviously, working on my home computer, I likely have my Google account signed in, or other stuff there. What concern should I have as far as something being taken from my home computer and showing up at a work computer just because I'm logging into the same accounts?
Yeah, and it's a good way. It is very likely, and it's very possible. You don't know what you just got on your machine, even though you cleaned it up. You don't know what it grabbed, what it took. Best thing at that point, log into your Google account or whatever you're concerned with and change your password.
Okay.
And that's the biggest one. Most of your 365 as that in Google, most of the people that are, I don't like using the word hacking, because hacking is somebody sitting there and trying to break into this building. They're actually trying to come in with brute force. That doesn't happen that often anymore. There's not enough money in it. They spend too much time trying to get in, and they're trying to get into the big places. The NSA, the FAA, Department of Defense, and so on. With those types of things, they'll get your username and password, and then they'll log into 365 as you and start sending the emails out, hoping that those emails get them more money. They're not really going after you per se, they're using you as the beachhead to try to gain foothold elsewhere. So simply by change, they have not gotten on your computer, they're not running from a machine in the office, they're not actually in here working off of this processor. So the best thing is change your password, and you, 99% of the time, you've gotten past the problem. Go right ahead.
What do you feel about the feature on the web browsers to remember your password?
I highly recommend you never use it. I do not, again, everybody does their own thing as long as you're food, but I highly recommend you do not.
Does that go for like, I'm sorry, does that go for like, I hear these password apps where you can like keep track of all your passwords on an app?
Exactly. And that's where I was going. One of the things, part of the advanced security package that we do offer, that's completely optional for you, but is to use something like Passportal. And it's maintained centrally, but it's individually. And so that becomes a question regarding businesses. It is not a centrally managed password component. I know you have something like that, but you have to be able to log into your computer to be able to get it. So that's a little different. Passportal is individual, so you can store all your information in there, but what's stored in there belongs to you, not to the company. But again, the company doesn't need your password. Joseph here will never need your password. If he needs to get into your account, he simply calls us, we reset the password, and he's in. So he doesn't actually, that's why I said nobody in the company needs to know your information. But those are very good tools to use, and there are some that are for enterprises. The best one on the market for individuals is Passportal.